Hey guys, it's your boy Joshua again. Hope you guys are doing good. Through this lockdown, we've moved to level 3. I'm seeing some improvements, eh? But before I forget, guys, let me just give a heads up and encouragement to our matrics, grade 7s, to our high school pupils, even primary school pupils, but I doubt they're watching this video. But just shout out to you guys, because I know you guys are going through a lot of stress, and just keep working hard, especially the guys that are working online as well. Some of you are going back to school or are at school already, so just keep on working hard, guys, and don't quit, because quitting never solves anything, and God's with you. You will get through this through God's grace. Okay. And unfortunately, this is our last video of the Armor of God series. Now don't be sad, we're going to come up with a new one for you guys. All right, but I want you guys to stay in tune for this one today. This one's a very interesting one personally I needed more information about, so I hope you get the information needed. And if you did, or if you didn't, please comment, like, share the word, guys. Subscribe, share the word, tell your friends to tell their friends, to tell their extended friends, even tell the people that hate you. So yeah, guys, spread the word, please spread the word for us, for youth. And also watch our videos on Sundays, guys. Please, we also make videos on Sundays. Well, not me, the main pastors. So the main people of the church, they make, the videos for Sundays. So please also watch that if you can. All right. And a couple of prayer requests from my side to you guys. Just pray for, your teachers going back to school, and they're planning all these things for you guys, and your parents, maybe they've gotten back to work already. Pray for them as well. I think they need it as well. They need an extra push from you guys and your support. You're not the only guys that need support, right? So yeah. So guys, just prepare your hearts now, as we're about to go into worship. So I want you guys to prepare your hearts before you listen to the message. And Kwezi.
This is no performance, Lord, I pray it's worship. Empty words I can't afford. I'm not chasing feelings, that's not why I'm singing. You're the reason for my song. If I sing with everything, if I sing for you, my King, oh, I can't imagine why I would do this so for high, 'cause it's all to lift you high. Oh. Just my soul's attention. All I have is what I'll give. And more than a song that lasts a moment, I live a life of honest worship. If I'm here to sing, then I'll sing with purpose. All the praise, Lord, you deserve it. And I only wanna sing. If I sing with everything, if I sing for you, my King, oh, I can't imagine why I would do this so for high, 'cause it's all to lift you high. Okay, guys, we're about to have Angie share a spoken word with us, and thank you for tuning in. Hey. Yeah! 1, 2, 3, go!
Hey Echo Youth, so to finish off our Armor of God series, I thought I would just share a little bit about what the Armor of God means to me personally. So, some of you have heard my testimony before, but some of you haven't. And basically, I grew up in a home where I was exposed to all kinds of different abuse. And for me, it was really hard growing up because I had no normal lifestyle. And things really got to me. So I thought I wasn't good enough. I constantly felt that I wasn't good enough. My heart was always hard because I was hurt, and it was the only way that I could protect myself. I definitely didn't carry peace with me wherever I went. In fact, a lot of the time, wherever I would go, it would just be turmoil and chaos. And coming to know God and learning about Him and the beauty of salvation in Christ has really, really helped me, knowing that every morning I'm protected by Christ. My salvation is my salvation, and it can't be taken away. And honestly, the armor of God is one of the very first stories I ever really learned about God. You know, someone taught me about the armor, and it really resonated with me because finally I had something that could protect me. And yeah, so I just really want to encourage you guys that if you are ever feeling a little bit despondent or unsure, take yourself back to Ephesians and read Ephesians, because it really changed my life. It absolutely showed me the glory of God and just how to be a better person and how to walk in God's truth and stand firm against the enemy who comes daily. Hope you guys enjoyed the series. Bye for now.
How's it, Echo Youthers? Great to be sharing this with you today. I don't know about you, but one of the things I love is seals. And I'm not talking about those ong kinds, the clubbing seals. I'm talking about the Navy SEALs, the Army SEALs. The guys are, you know, they're full of tats, big muscles, shaved hair, and then they've got all this cool equipment. Really awesome. I love watching stories and programs where it's got the Navy SEALs on them. Just they're the elite. They're the top of everything that they do. I just love some of the equipment that they've got and some of the things that they do. But I love looking at army stuff. If you've ever been in a tank or in an aircraft and a fighter jet, some great experiences. But one of the things I've come to realize is just because you've got the stuff, you know, when you're sitting there in that tank, you feel like you're in the army. But it doesn't mean that you've actually joined up. It doesn't mean that you're ready. It doesn't make you an Army SEAL just because you have the equipment. I know for the past couple of weeks, you guys have been doing a series called the Armor of God. And I want to put this out there. Just because you put on the armor of God doesn't make you a soldier. Just because you can have all the army equipment, it doesn't make you part of the war. One of the things I've realized is that when you put on armor, it doesn't mean that you're going to win the war. That the army with the best armor is going to win. That's not how it works. It doesn't work like that. What I've realized, if you want to be a true soldier, it takes boot camp, it takes training, it takes dedication, it takes hard work. My experience is that for Christians, too many of them want the war without the training. They want the armor without the boot camp. And so I want to share a few things from Ephesians, because you've been looking at a passage in Ephesians 6, but Ephesians has got this whole army and this whole training, this whole boot camp before you can take up that armor. In Ephesians 2, it talks about who we are and what Christ has done. I love verse 13. It says, you were once far, but you've been brought near through Jesus Christ. What a great image. It talks about what Christ has done for you. And that's part of the initiation. That's part of the training. To realize that it's by grace that God has brought you close to Him. Then Ephesians 3, it talks about the call to be the church together. It talks about together with all the saints to see how wide and how deep and how long is the love of God. Together with all the saints. One of the things you cannot do is you cannot know God's love in isolation. It takes fellow Christians, brothers and sisters next to you. You cannot go to war by yourself. You have to be part of a squadron, a platoon. And Ephesians 4 talks about this one church, one mission, one goal. And at the end of Ephesians 4 tells us what that looks like. Calls us to be the light in the world. Light all around, to shine out what God has done, to shine in the dark places of the world. That means standing up and fighting for the things that are wrong, shining God's light into situations, dealing with injustice, taking on evil. See, the church is called to be light in this dark world. But it also talks about not only our responsibility to our community in Ephesians 4, it talks about our responsibility at home, to be light at home. Ephesians 4 talks about husbands and wives. It talks about parents and kids. And so maybe that's something you need to think about. You want to put on all this armor, you want to go into war, but you're not getting the boot camp stuff right. Realizing who you are, what God has called us to be with brothers and sisters in Christ, and how He calls us to act in our community and at home. Quite a challenge. Then Ephesians 6 comes along, where it's a call to arms. It says, put on the armor as you join the army of light. That's really the message. And it reminds us that it's not a physical battle, it's a spiritual battle. And so the training has to happen in the spiritual. Your time with God before you can put on that armor. Know who God is, what He's done on your behalf. Know whose authority you stand. It's this great imagery. But the training happens in the spiritual. And I want to share with you, because you've probably spent a lot of time on the different pieces of armor and talking about it for the past couple of weeks. But Ephesians 6 starts off with the call to stand. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything, to stand. Now, for the past couple of weeks, you've been looking at the armor of God and probably looking at all the different dimensions of what it means and all those kind of things. But one of the things I remember that struck me about the armor of God was when you look at it, it's all made for war. You've got your sword, your belt, your breastplate, your helmet, your shoes. It's got all this stuff which is ready to go into action. But one of the things that this armor doesn't have, which would have been traditional in those times, it's got no back covering. See, you would put a back covering on when you went into war, so that if you had to turn and retreat, that they wouldn't be able to stab you in the back or shoot you with an arrow. It's funny that the armor of God doesn't include room for retreat. It doesn't include room for you to flee. It's not designed for that at all. The armor of God is designed so you can stand and fight, so that you can stand and advance. It reminds us that when we go into the war for God, that we do not go backwards, that the victory is ours. It reminds me of the words that Jesus says to Peter, and he's got this image in his mind, and I remember reading and never saw it like this until it was just pointed out. When you look at what Jesus says, he turns around to Peter and he says, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail. The gates of hell will not prevail. See, in Jesus' mind, his image for Satan and his kingdom is that Satan has retreated, that the army of God has come upon Satan, that the church has grown and attacked and advanced. And what Satan's had to do, he's had to flee, he's had to retreat. And all that he's done is he's gone into his castle and he's closed the gates, and the army of God has surrounded him. And then Jesus makes this promise: the gates of hell will not be able to stop the army of God. Satan is on the back foot. Satan is the one that needs to protect himself from the back, because he's going to be fleeing. See, Jesus has got the victory. He's got the victory, and he's got it through you. And he calls us to join him and fight, to move forward, never retreat. So I want to say to each one of you, isn't it about time you got in the game? That you stopped playing church, trying to put on this armor, trying to look good, saying all the right Christian stuff? What happens if your life needs to change? You need to learn to be light. You need to be light at home and in your community. You need to stand up for what's right. And it's not because you have to. It's because I'm reminded of what I said in the very beginning, in Ephesians. When you look at what Christ has done for you, the power and the victory is because God knows that we're weak. And we know that without him, we will fail. But he calls us, he destines us out of darkness into light. And he calls us to join him in our weakness. And He calls us to live this amazing life and this plan that He has for each of us. He calls us to be part of the church with brothers and sisters, to work out how great and how wide is God's love for every single one of us. And then He says, put on this armor because it's going to protect you. The battle is already the Lord's. He's already won everything. He's overcome this world. And all He does is He calls us to put this stuff on and fight with Him. See, Jesus sees you as being worthy of wearing the armor that He's given you. Jesus sees you as worthy of wearing the armor He has given you. He calls us to get in the game, to get into our training, to go through the boot camp, and then to fight and never retreat, to never turn our backs, because the victory is ours. So I want to pray for you. Lord, I pray for each of the guys that are listening to this right now. Pray that they'll realize that You have gone the distance. You have gone full out. You've prepared us and You've called us. And that the victory is already ours because of what You did on the cross for every single one of us. That Satan will not win. His gates will fall down. We will never have to retreat. Not because we are great, but because You are awesome. You are amazing. And You have won.
Lucky guys, so as we finish off this week with our Mask On Armor of God series, I want to just remind you, as Jason said today, it doesn't help you've got the armor, but you don't actually become part of the army. So I want to remind you, take what you've learned to heart, use it, and maybe combat this world together for God and for His army. Thanks.